the Global Cancer, it's a Global Public Forum. This is a unique program that we wanted to try. We have all the top leaders from all the different societies from around the world. I would like to invite our key speakers who spoke today to please come, including Dr. Hedvig Rikakia. Please come on, and I would like to invite all of you to please come to the stage. And I'd like to ask Dr. Abdalla, Abdalla Alnajjar, to come to the stage, please. Actually, I did your job. You should be the inviting. Apologies. Yeah. So.
طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. Now we are coming to this open session which we would like people from the community to ask questions in their mind about cancer treatment, what they should expect. It seems that the number we have here is not really as we hope for, but let this be a session for question and answer. So, our distinguished guests, they've been talking all day, so you know them all. I'm not going to introduce them because basically I don't know your names. So allow me or excuse me. But let's open the area, the space now for people who would like to have questions, direct questions about the subject of this conference. So just shoot any question you have, especially those in the back, those I believe coming from the community, very few, but anyhow, we would like the microphone to go around, and please feel free to ask any question you have in your mind. We don't mind this session to be those who would like to speak in Arabic or ask in Arabic. We will try to do the translation, and we have some of our friends here who can deliver the message very clearly. Okay, so please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much. I'm Tahir Abu Hijla, I'm a thoracic oncologist from Jordan. I thank all the panelists and the speakers for all the great talks, and I congratulate you on the launch of AMSTRO. This is really great. So my question to you is, we have a real problem in the region of having tumor boards. I worked at King Hussein Cancer Center at some point, and tumor boards there can be done because it's an academic institution. You have thoracic oncology, you have head and neck, you have others. It's really difficult to make a decision nowadays without having a tumor board. I am a thoracic oncologist, and you ask few thoracic oncologists about one case, you might get 3 different opinions. So it's becoming really difficult to practice without tumor boards. However, specialization is not the norm in the region yet. So general oncologists, community oncologists, I would say most of the oncologists in the region are still practicing without specializing in a specific area. And it's becoming real difficult to be on, you can't spend 30 hours per week being on tumor boards when you are a general oncologist presenting breast cancer cases, lung cancer cases, and others. This is a major problem. Any thoughts about how to tackle that? Because without dealing with this, really the patients are not getting the best care for their specific cancers. Thank you.
Let's agree on something, is that we don't need to answer all of us or go round. So anyone would like to comment or give an answer, let it be short and move to someone else.
Can
Okay.
I? Okay. I'm sorry. If you want to go first.
لا تبغين
It's
تقولين
okay.
بالعربي.
Good. Dear doctor, thank you so much for this question. And I love MDT.
And
And I do not want to go into surgery without having an MDT discussion first. Okay, I do whatever I think is suitable for the patient, but one mind is not better than many minds. You know, like if we have the oncologist, the pathologist, the radiation oncologist, also the radiology with me, and I'm a surgeon. And we all think from different perspectives, but we meet one goal is to treat that patient the best treatment plan we have. So I don't understand why is MDT difficult. In my institution, they're not difficult. We have a set time. We have 1 hour, protected hour. And in this hour, we have to sometimes squeeze 15 cases. And we discuss cases that are diagnosed metastatic and also post-surgical. And I do not accept being the head of the breast MDT. I do not accept one patient being treated without MDT discussion. And if the patient is treated without MDT discussion and I have a glimpse of it, I'll bring it back and I will put my finger on the table that this patient has to be discussed. And I can see faces from my MDT table and they know when we put, like our feet and we say, we are not leaving this room till we have a plan for this patient because it's totally unfair.
دكتورة طولتي.
Sorry?
طولتي.
Okay, I'm sorry. So it's unfair if this patient comes back to you after 5-10 years with a recurrence that you can prevent. Believe me, you will not. You will have this guilt feeling that will eat you up. Because these patients, like you'll build this human interaction with, and they might be your friend, they might be your neighbor, especially in the Arab world, right? Everybody knows everybody. So they might call you and tell you, oh, this is my sister, would you please see her? We all know. But I don't think MDT is difficult. I think the MDT is the only truth in the whole program of cancer care.
شكرا دكتورة موزة. دكتور let's try to give ما شاء الله you are all experts and most likely academicians because I know I'm being I wasn't from academia okay, so I know that we like to give very lengthy explanation. So let's make it short. Let's assume that we are businessmen. Teaser. That's okay. Actually, there are many questions. We don't want to stay stuck with this. So it's not the only question we get.
Okay.
So it's the only. Hey, now you can go up. Someone, go ahead.
Yeah. Can I just ask one question about the same theme of MDT?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for today's discussions and everything. I wanted to ask, following Her Highness's conversation about nursing practitioners. So I actually love that, and we spoke to our head of department about also having therapist practitioners. However, due to the lack of training, how can one reach to those qualifications, So I think this is like a very huge struggle in some centers. Like the motivation is there, however, the support is not there. You get it? So if you can
قصدك ان الممرضين ما يكونون داعمين ولا؟
Basically, like in general, department, like it's not providing the enough support to reach that role. However, the department is busy as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say something about that. Yeah, nursing oncology is one of the fields that has developed a lot in the past decade or two, I'd say. and there are a lot of resources that are available. So the support is there. It is the awareness and how to navigate the available supports that a lot of nurses in LMICs don't have. It's also a field of medicine that you can get training to a certain degree online, virtually. Now, the last thing I would say is there are many regional oncology, nursing oncology bodies. As you know, nurses are the pivots of the healthcare system. They are the powerhouse, they are the strength, they are so powerful. So the associations are available to help. I'm saying this with confidence because we benefited from it. And through the London Global Cancer Week, we were able to train nurses in Kebbi State. And as we speak, we've started about 4 years ago, but we were not able to start the specialized training. There are only 2 centers in Nigeria where you can get specialized nursing training. But the College of Nursing, we had to go through the process of getting it from a school to a college and so on. And now they're about to start offering oncology nursing. And the help is coming from the Global Oncology Nursing Association. So it's awareness, as with most things, how to navigate it and how to get it. And task sharing is certainly happening a lot in Africa and other low middle income countries, and we need to encourage them more.
Okay, shukran. Move to other question. So whoever answer, he doesn't need to repeat himself. Someone else. Okay.
So I'm going to tie the last 2 questions together a little bit. I spent 30 years at a major academic center in Seattle, Washington. I'm a breast cancer specialist. I don't know anything about treating lung cancer or any other kinds of cancer at this point. But we were the academic center for 5 states, a very big region, most of it very, very rural. So we had a network of sites that we partnered with. We had tumor boards for our network sites. So those were all the non-specialists. And they didn't bring us every single patient. There's a difference between, I do think every patient, at least those we're treating with curative intent, needs a multidisciplinary consult up front before you start anything. But these were the more complicated cases that weren't as obvious. And so we'd pull together. If there was a breast case, we'd pull our breast experts. If there was a lung case, we'd pull our lung experts. And we would be talking to the 5 or 6 sites, and we'd know what the cases were in advance. Additionally, to address the other question, we at ASCO piloted a hub and spoke model in Montana. This is it's a big state in terms of geography, but small in terms of population. So a cancer center in Bozeman, Montana had spokes where there was no oncologist, but chemotherapy was being given. Oncology certified nurses were delivering the chemotherapy, and we had nurse practitioner level people to manage the side effects because they could write prescriptions at these sites. And who decided on the chemotherapy? That was at the main cancer center, and that's where the main oversight was. So both of these are models of hubs and spokes. You use your experts, but you deliver. But you're patient-centric. You're bringing the care and the expertise out to the community. And a third example was the Fred Hutch Cancer Center, which was my cancer center in Seattle. We had a strong partnership with the Uganda Cancer Institute to pull it into the whole LMIC model. And we had regular tumor boards as well. And we would know in advance what the cases were. They would actually send us electronically slides and x-rays. And sometimes our pathologist would say, I'm not even sure that's cancer, by the way. So we also had that kind of a relationship, and we were not the only center. I'm just giving you my personal experience. There are many other centers in the US and Western Europe that also have strong relationships with a few sites.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just say one word? I come from Memorial Sloan Kettering. The tumor boards are hallmark of our patient care. And there's another value to tumor boards, and that's education. Education for everybody, for residents, fellows, and fellow specialists from other groups. I'm a radiologist. And I know how much I learned and how my practice elevated because of the participations in a tumor board. So the value is tremendous.
Thank you. Questions, please?
Yeah.
One comment about the RTTs, which are of course of utmost importance for radiation oncology. I mean, if we move into adaptive radiation, this will not be a physicist and a clinician being on the machine. This is way too expensive. So there's already countries which have invested in integrated RTTs at the machines, approving treatment plans. So there's no justification that it cannot be done before the treatment starts. So it's about legal framework, obviously, seeing the heterogeneity we have in Europe, and it's about education and training.
Thank you. Okay, we want to take as much as possible questions, and then, okay, brother, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I believe everybody in this room is fully convinced that the MDTs are essential, and also there is a strong role of oncology nurses. The question really is that how to make that happen in LMICs, and I'm so happy to see that regional leaders are here under the umbrella AMSTRO, which could provide a perfect platform to influence the national policy. I mean, in England, this hub and spoke model is in existence for more than 2 decades now, when the National Cancer Plan was published in 2000. And we saw a huge benefit. 90% of patients actually are seen by CNSs, which is clinical nurse specialists. And further to your model of hub and spoke, we have many patients who get chemotherapy at home delivered by the chemotherapy nurses. They don't have to travel 100 miles to go to the cancer center. So that is, we all believe that that is essential to have that happen. But how to make that happen in LMIC? I believe that AMSTRO could provide a perfect platform to bring regional leaders on one platform where they can come up with 2 things. One, influence the local national cancer policy to take in line with hub and spoke and MDTs and all kind of stuff. But more importantly, can we decide about the regional center of excellence for one thing or the other thing, another thing? Because there are rare cancers like sarcomas, for example. I believe that sarcoma tumor boards are not available in all hospitals. I mean, unless you work in MSKCC or Johns Hopkins or whatever. In UAE, for example, not all cancer centers have sarcoma MDTs. So are we happy to have a dedicated sarcoma center in UAE? Can all the patients be plugged into the MDT in that center? That is the kind of discussion we need to have, that how can we pool resources together to create the center of excellence, which can then act as hub and then spoke model, and how to influence that the national cancer policy. This is where I think the AMSTRO can play a huge role to bring the regional leaders together to affect that.
Comment from AMSTRO people?
Before, I would make one comment before we go to the MDT, which I think is of the same importance, having guidelines and SOPs. Many cases are standard cases, and if you are in a low income, low resource country, you might solve some of the cases by having a good and appropriate guideline and SOP. I'm in lung cancer, so if you have a stage 1 lung cancer, 50 years old, good pulmonary function, you may or may not present and the patient is being sent to surgical resection. So there's a lot of preparation work needed before and not shifting the work to the MDT. That is what I sometimes see, that the preparation before, having an alignment between the disciplines, having guidelines which are adapted to the local and regional environment are at least as important.
Shukran.
Yes, I can answer the question of Irfan. I belong to a lower middle income country. Regarding the tumor boards, we are practicing it since 1985. Yes, we are running our head and neck cancer tumor boards in 1985, where this thing was not there. Before COVID area, we started telemedicine, and we are running 14 tumor boards in a week. And they are continued. Dr. Nadeem is here. He has started tumor boards in Karachi and south of Pakistan. We are very, very successful. Tumor board saves life. It is unjustified. You put yourself in front on the stool of your patient, and you cannot decide. You will think once you are in the stool of the patient that what is the best for me. Moreover, adding to it, I must appreciate the role of International Atomic Energy Agency. We are a part of ASPRONet. ASPRONet is an Asia Pacific Regional Oncology Network, Radiation Oncology Network, which we are running on our own now since this project has been stopped. 16 countries are involved. The difficult cases are discussed with experts and all sub-sites. So the tumor boards are still in practice and they are more improving. So our model can be adopted if somebody wants to have to discuss this with us. We are there to help them out. How we can manage the tumor boards in lower middle income countries.
So, like in the presentation, one suggestion for AMSTRO to help is to set up these tumor boards, very similar to what we're doing with AfroNet and AsproNet, as you've heard. So those are only for the difficult cases that really need subspecialization and support. But for regular cases, we used to do like the hub and spoke model, like was discussed, and we had multiple satellites, and we would have a central tumor board that would help all the others because we had all the experts within the main campus back when, in the Cleveland Clinic. So I would say that, you know, there are two options for regional to help, especially in areas where there are no subspecialists. That's one, and the IA can help, but now with this new society, I think it's a good opportunity. And the second, if it's a larger country and you have more specialists, then you bring people together depending on what the need is. So that's for that. And then for the first question about the radiation oncology, radiation therapists that would like to do a practitioner work, one of two things. If she meant within the same field of work, then it would be dosimetry or something like that, as in, you know, moving forward. But if she wanted to do perfect nursing, like a nurse practitioner, then it would be a completely different undertaking, a new almost career, right? So that's, you know, it depends on exactly how far she wants to go and what her goal is. Just an improvement, or is it just a change of career?
She'd like to comment, but let's listen to Sir Al-Haq. He's going to tell us about AMSTRO.
Yeah, so the question asked about what AMSTRO might be able to do. One of the ideas that we are thinking about bringing to this region is setting up a comprehensive cancer center in the cloud. This is what this gentleman sitting here, he's smiling. He came up with this idea 10 years ago. 10 years ago, he came up with this idea. So we are working on it. We are working on it. It was too early. It was a fantastic concept. Imagine putting up this best cancer center in the world in the cloud and everyone having access to it. So we are, this is something we're going to bring in the AMSTRO region. So that's all I will say at this time in the interest of time. But thank you, Will, for coming up with this idea 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay, أسئلة أخرى, more questions? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. My turn.
Either, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everybody. My name is Nidal. Originally, I'm from Jordan, but I'm working in Saudi Arabia, actually in King Faisal Hospital, medical physicist, chief of technologist in nuclear medicine. My question is, let's say first, recently we noticed that nuclear medicine opened all the doors, actually, and they are creating a lot of isotopes in therapy, especially. My question is for all of you guys as AMSTRO team, and especially for Dr. Andrew and Dr. Kharita. They are representing, mashallah, very important communities in medical physics. Is there any plans or any intentions to initiate or create a new specialties under the umbrella of medical physics, right? In the dosimetry or in therapeutic isotopes? Is there any plans to have it? Especially in Middle East, now we have medical physics specialty. We don't have even bachelor degree in nuclear medicine. Let's start in advance to have this strong steps, to have bachelor degree in medical physics, to have master degree in nuclear medicine, to have PhD in nuclear medicine, to open all the doors, even academic doors, to have a big knowledge in to have a big flag actually in medical physics and sub-specialties under this umbrella. Thank you very much.
So you touch on a very important point, and you have a very deep question. So I'll touch the first part first. So the new nuclear medicine-based radiopharmaceutical therapies, these span between radiation oncology and nuclear medicine. You're correct. You know, you like Pluvitica for what we do 200 millicuries. It's a straight dose. We don't do any sort of dose modulation, right? And we know that that's not the best way to do this. And this requires us, therefore, to have instruments that allow us to, you know, image these effectively. So you're looking at the digital SPECT cameras, for example. There aren't very many of them available right now. You also want people who have experience in doing dosimetry and, you know, giving that feedback so that we can modulate the treatment during the duration of that treatment. How do we approach that from a educational and certifying level? It's not clear right now. It's actually something we're actively discussing in the AAPM. We've talked about ideas, and these are just ideas, you know, like the equivalent of fellowships. We don't really have equivalent of fellowships in medical physics right now. So you finish your residency and you go on. Why don't you do a fellowship in brachytherapy or in radiopharmaceutical therapy? You know, or AI, you know, the way CAMPEP is set up right now, the way the ABR is set up right now, it is somewhat siloing in that you end up siloing yourself as a therapy physicist or as a nuclear medicine physicist or an imaging physicist. But we've seen, for example, with image-guided therapy, that doesn't always fit. You have to be more adaptive. And so we're actively in conversations with the ABR, with CAMPEP, and looking at alternative structures that allow more flexibility between the sort of the different aspects of medical physics.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. And I could say just as an example, you know, even in the International Medical Physics Certification Board, nuclear medicine certified only at level 3 only this year. 2025. Before that, it wasn't still certified. So I agree with you as well that nuclear medicine is lagging behind in a way compared to other specialty in medical physics. But you know, with the advancement, you know, as Andrew has already mentioned, it's really a must to discuss this issue, especially with theranostic and things like this. So probably it's wise to invest in this. But for us in our region, probably we're very happy if they you know, license, you know, medical physicist level 3, like I said. Huh? So, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that we have a new master's that we have been working on with ICTP, and specifically to support dosimetry and metrology. So as a subspecialty. And for nuclear medicine, I think the biggest challenge is the advances in dosimetry are still limited. There's a lot of things that are still investigational. And on top of it, you have the complication of trying to interdigitate it with, let's say, external beam and understanding the difference in radiobiology and how to use, you know, G for the alpha beta model to modify it, you know, and things like that. So it's a bit more complex, you know, in terms of eventually understanding and being able to quantify it like we would do in, let's say, radiation oncology, which is much more advanced in terms of the dosimetry part. But having said that, there are opportunities, as I said. We start out with a subspecialization, maybe at least in measurements, you know, and see where that takes us. And maybe down the road, there could be something that could be a subspecialization. But I think the field still needs a bit more maturity in terms of dose measurements and understanding what's really happening. And this happens fairly quickly, because I remember the early days of TheraSphere where you just gave a certain number of millicuries or whatever, and then that was it through the right or left vessel. And now it's a completely different story. So it's moving fast, but I think we're not there yet.
I just would like to ask a question to you and to Dr. May. So there are no specialized courses or accreditation for nuclear medicine, even in America, Canada.
No, so there are.
There are.
There are courses for nuclear medicine, yes.
But I mean,
They're not very heavily populated. Not a lot of people in them, but that there are specific training mechanisms for nuclear medicine and for residencies in nuclear
I
medicine.
mean, to have a special sort of accreditation, subspecialty.
Yes,
Yeah.
but in the application for treatment rather than for imaging, there's this growth with all these targeted immunotherapies, and what's happening is people want to modulate the dose. So for example, the binding of the radiopharmaceutical, say to the prostate, can vary depending on the expression of the antigens in the prostate. So you could treat someone with 200 millicuries and give a non-clinical dose to the prostate, but for another person, you could give them 200 millicuries and give, you know, something that would actually have quite a lot of morbidity associated with it.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to try to modulate this. But May is correct. This is still the area of science in some sense. It's not well proven. There are basically two groups of people, ones who believe very strongly that you should be modulating the therapy for every patient, and another group who's like, there's just not evidence there to do it yet. I tend to lay more in the first group. But the skill set then sort of spans the two disciplines. You know, the therapeutic physicists are better at modeling doses and doing dose planning and such. The nuclear medicine physicists are better at involved in sort of the radiobiological distribution of the radiation. And so you need to wear both hats.
But as a lay person, I want to be able to know, I think, that whoever is doing the medical physics or that they are highly accredited and checked. Isn't that the issue? And they would want to know for their career that they have some kind of certificate. So this is what I'm wondering. Some regulation, something to say, you know, you are up to that level, right? So why is that possible?
It is, yeah.
Training, and there is kind of subspecialization. There is, in a way, I mean, like if we recruit medical physicists, for example, we have the nuclear medicine medical physicists, the radiology, and, you know, so people are working in certain areas and got training in certain areas. But what we're talking about is this, the new technologies like theranostics, where it's very difficult. You just give a dose, but you don't know how much of the dose is actually stuck to where the tumor is. And this is still in development, but there's a lot of investigation going on right now. So I think maybe it won't take too long, I hope, to be able to reach that.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Khadija. I'm a radiation oncologist currently practicing in Oman. What I see, we are, you know, there's a lot of work when the patient come to our door in the tertiary hospital and MDT and so on. But one point, having worked in a different part of the world, is the initial journey of the patient when at the time of the early diagnosis and before the referral to tertiary center. That time, the care paths for those patients are not really looked at, and most of the time it's the delay in the diagnosis, the way how the patient referred, it's just not clear, and there is a dark side to it. So I think this is another point where we have to work really hard in order to streamline this referral and who is earlier referral, what's the primary or the primary physician has to do, and what is the regulation. So these are the things that I think we should address in the future.
Shukran.
Yes, hello. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rebecca. I'm originally from Cameroon, from an LMIC country. So I have 3 questions. My first question is going to be addressed to the AMSTRO. We just learned that the ASCO organizes some subsidized courses for LMICs. Is the AMSTRO putting that kind of, has that kind of program for LMICs that they get subsidized courses for them to be able to improve their knowledge? That's for you. And then the second question goes to Will. you've been working a lot on this Global Health Catalyst Summit, and that's the 11th year now. So can you tell us what problems you've been encountering and with the governments of LMICs, and how you think you can improve the situation, for example, for radiation oncology in these countries? We saw the maps Dr. May showed us today. And then to Dr. May, I know that the IAEA works only with governments. But me, for example, coming from Cameroon, there's only one LINAC in Cameroon. That's a private LINAC. There used to be in the 80s 2 cobalt machines, one in the capital, one in Douala, and now there's only this one in Douala. So there is other private hospitals who are trying to get a LINAC, and this is a project which has been ongoing since 2016. Now we're going to the 10th year, and this private, it's a Christian hospital. They haven't been able to build a bunker. They haven't been able to have specialists being trained. So how can the IAEA step out a little bit from this government partnership and try to go to the private sector? I mean, that will be a position to help also these LMIC countries who are really suffering from not having radiotherapy for their cancer patients. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the question. Obviously, education is a strong pillar of the ASTRO Society. We will just be celebrating the 40 years anniversary of the ASTRO School. Currently, we have about 40 live courses. There's no industry funding for any of the course or for the majority, and all the participants, they have to pay mostly out of pocket. So there's no industry funding for participation. So we don't think that online on-site courses are going to address that need. That's why we're currently building up our digital hub. We think that providing and making free access to online education will serve many fields much better as compared to the traditional model of on-site courses. That's what we're currently building up, and we hope to have the hard launch happening at ASTRO 26 in Stockholm.
Thank you.
I'll just add that with our ASCO multidisciplinary cancer management courses, we partner with other societies to supply a speaker in radiation oncology, nursing, pathology, and then we bring in some of the local experts as well. And to get back to the comment from previously about the delays in getting in and the diagnosis in the primary care community, one of our courses are oncology for the primary care provider. I participated in a few over the years, both before and after I became the chief medical officer at ASCO. What we do is we get the country at the government level to commit to bringing kind of the who will be the trainers. It's a train the trainers. So we get the government to bring in providers from around the country frequently. I've done one in Nairobi and one in Tbilisi, Georgia. It's the first time that the primary care providers ever meet oncologists, and it sets up the opportunity to now be able to call and curbside and say, I have this patient, I think they might have cancer, but now they know the cancer specialist. And that was a real eye-opener for me, was that, it wasn't that the primary care providers didn't know what to do, or they weren't worried about it being a potential cancer, but they didn't know how to get the patient through the process. And so the most important part of the course was making those introductions. And then they went back, because we picked key trainers now to go back, and then they trained their communities. So that, I really like that model.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rebecca, for that question. I think it's a really important question that Dr. Zainab actually brought up earlier about challenging AMSTRO, to really engage with policy makers. We can sit among ourselves here as radiation oncology health professionals, medical oncologists, and we can talk among each other. We can collaborate, we can go so far, but to really go further, we really need to talk to these policymakers. right? And I just want to recognize you. Actually, you've been doing a really great job from Germany, with Saifu. We should talk to her about the C4 because she has been doing tumor boards for a long time, remotely from Germany, leading that group to build capacity in Cameroon. But as to the Global Health Catalyst work, which you're part of, what I've seen is that we always talk about, there are two things. One is communication. And I think one person who really does that really well is Princess Dina, who communicates these cancer concepts very clearly. When we use these technical terms, we have to find a way to communicate to policymakers. And so that's a big thing, right? But the second one is really, I remember when we launched the Lancet Oncology Commission for Sub-Saharan Africa in Nigeria, the statistics were really difficult, right? So there are 80,000 deaths per year, and those are underestimated, I'm sure. And then we said, well, Nigeria lost $5.6 billion per year due to cancer. And then somebody from the parliament stood up and was like, what? $5.6 billion. And that was the headline news in Nigeria, actually from the commission. That's not what we really thought we wanted to communicate. We're communicating the deaths, but people actually, policymakers, understand economics. And we need to start talking to these policymakers. That's one thing we've learned, in terms of economic terms. And Hades Lancet Commission talks about how if you invest $1 in radiology, imaging, the return on investment of that is about $10. That is a language that policymakers understand, and you can make them invest into this. And I'll just end by saying that one of the things that, through collaborations with other professional societies, including ASCO, with setting up this global cancer financing platform, where you really can invest into cancer, not as a cost center, because always think about, workforce, cancer as something that you're just spending money, but actually presenting this platform as an infrastructure where you can invest into it. And so tomorrow I'll talk a little bit about that if you're here in the morning, but that's a really important way or viewpoint of communicating with policymakers. Thank you.
Yes, so I guess I'll answer the Cameroon question. So first of all, the way we're set up is we can work with anybody within certain programs. So for example, if you want to access the webinars or e-learning or our documents, download them for free, anything scientific of that nature, even sometimes CRPs like projects, that's fine. But for the actual implementation projects on the ground, like setting up buying equipment or training people, it's a different story. Because for those, we have a system where it has to go through the national liaison officer to suggest the project. And that's where it has to be through the government. And it makes sense because the governments are the ones that are putting in money into the fund. So it makes sense that they should have some control of how they want to spend it. And more importantly, they understand the needs of their country. So there's a country program framework that actually is prepared with the country on a regular basis, and they have to sign off on it. It's a very formal affair, and it says these are our priorities for the next year. So it's a national planning level document that's used, and from that comes the implementation. But the other arm of the IAA does not depend on that because it's very scientific and continuing medical education and so forth. That's open. So that's the first point. The second point is in terms of bunker design, we support review of bunker design, but we do not build bunkers. So infrastructure like bunkers are done through things like World Bank or other banks, and that's their investment, or some of the development agencies. So we would support the planning of the bunker. We would look at what's needed within the center and help with the design of the center. If the country wants, then we could have buy equipment or train people depending on the project, but we would not actually build the bunker. So that would be an infrastructure project that would go through the banks. hope that.
Shukran, Dr. May. Any more questions? Please, no. Wallah, Allah يخليك. You took your time. Wallah, no, please. Sorry. You know, I'm an Arab. I used to be a dictator. Any question? But it's a very long day, but still I would like to insert you even more.
Well, I have maybe one question short to Your Excellencies, because it seems that you are more closely connected to the communities and travel more and directly communicate with the patients. I will come from the patient side, because today when we are driving the bus here in the morning, I met one colleague of mine here from Saudi Arabia, and he said that there is a patient, and the patient was detected with cancer, and before coming to the treatment, he said, okay, I will go and visit the sheikh and have from him saying some Quran verses. And it seems like the community here, especially what AMSTRO is presenting here, is very strongly related with religion. So maybe what do you think, what is the approach of working with sheikhs and with imams and with the religion, spiritual leaders here, that they, from the patient side, because one of the points probably that the death rate is very high because the patients come very late on the treatment sites. Thank you.
A very good question. Actually, when I was director of the King Hussein Cancer Foundation, we utilized all influencers in our community, and certainly the imams, the sheikh, the mosques, etc., and the churches. By the way, we do have Christians in our country. Anybody who can convince people, early to give awareness on early detection about cancer and not to present themselves late, and so on and so forth, we utilized religion positively in that way.
Sound a note of caution. It's a very common context in you talk about sociocultural ways, and the religion in particular can be sensitive. So when you use you must get the learned ones and you must educate them so that they can influence positively. Otherwise, it becomes a negative thing. If you go on the online, the whole internet is full of different faith healers, but the faiths themselves teach you so clearly. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you want to commit your camel to God, you tie it first. So you take your medication first, and then you commit to God. The same thing in the Christian books. Faith without works is dead in the book of James. So you can't just have faith blindly and say my cancer will be cured. That is what our people do without having the work. So we have to use these type of platforms to send the very strong message that we're not fighting with them, we'll work with them. They're very influential, but they have to be educated and they have to do it the right way.
Absolutely agree. And I think in Jordan, it was very much a unified message. It's very important, unified scientific message, but they opened their doors so that we can distribute, because you are absolutely right. Even human beings can give either negativity or positivity or misinformation. So I agree with that. Even now we see influencers giving wrong information. They would sell anything just to get sponsorship and likes and so on and so forth. I think that goes with everything.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you. It's now 6:30. You would like to comment? MashaAllah, all of you, please. And Esther, actually, we do not allow succession. And that's finished. That's it. Anyhow, thank you very much. Really, this is very enlightening session. And this conference was really a great, thank you for all of you. Thank you. I didn't know.
Wait for picture. You want picture for all the audience or only for the session?
يعطيك العافية.
ولا كيف مجتمع عربي زي العرب اصلا نخلص
Too much.
Where are we looking? And we have a official